With Oakland PD, they were really looking at this one device, which was called a pan disruptor. No.
You know what? I've been called a bit of a pan disruptor myself.
Yeah. But that actually stands for percussion actuated non-electric disruptor. The disruptor stands for disruptor.
Yeah.
This is a, quote, gun-shaped device that gets attached to a remote-controlled robot, and then it uses blank shotgun shells to disable a bomb by shooting it with pressurized water. Mm-hmm. And basically, the city council was looking at this, and they were like, huh, and they were talking to the PD about it, and they were like, all right, but could this ever be used in any other situation? And Oakland PD, basically begrudgingly, after, a series of, huffing and puffing in, very cartoon police way. Imagine Cartoon Pig in cartoon police outfit.
So charming, yeah.
So charming. He's huffing and puffing. And he's like, ugh. Yes, you can replace those blanks with live rounds.
Now, see, I read about this, and I was wondering, if I was this guy, because he not only says that, he actually starts, over-explaining, which, by the way, TrueAnon tip.
Never over-explain.
Yes or no suffices.
Yeah, especially in a question and answer environment.
You don't want to be doing. You're in front of a committee of some sort.
Yeah. Look, you're a cartoon pig. You already have a hard time talking.
Or anticipate what the objections might be, and then seek to undercut those. But he's basically well, they ask him could this be used against a person? He's like, no. Well, yes. And then he proceeds to give a variety of situations that he's clearly thought about where that could absolutely be used against a human being.
Yes.
So, one of the things he says, is it possible we have an active shooter in a place we can't get to and he's fortified inside a house, or we're trying to get to a person? Interesting that he says that, because there's obviously an incident at the top of his mind.
Cut to Dallas, 2016.
Bet you didn't think we were going to say that, did you? No, folks. A robot did not kill JFK.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You know what? Actually, it could something people haven't considered is, what if Lee Harvey Oswald actually came back from a future time period where JFK had turned into some sort of Hitler-type figure.
Interesting.
And he kind of killed him before.
JFK,
yeah,
but
killed
he wasn't
baby JFK. But he was he could have. Lee Harvey Oswald was like, I can't kill a baby.
Next Terminator film.
Yeah, exactly. So back in Dallas, 2016, right? We're having a hot summer that year. BLM protests are in full force. In many ways, sort of mirroring the much hotter but much sadder summer of 2020.
Somewhat masked.
Very masked. Well, somewhat masked summer of 2020. You can't actually catch coronavirus at BLM protests, so there was actually no reason for the mask. But anyways, so Dallas 2016 had been a pretty crazy week that week. There was, I believe that was the same week that Alton Sterling had been executed in Baton Rouge? Baton Rouge?
I like Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge, and of course the video of Philando Castile, actually a live stream of him being killed, which is a really tough video to watch. Those had both recently happened, and those had come out, right? And so there was going to be this protest in downtown Dallas, actually pretty much near where the JFK robot assassination had happened. Micah Johnson, Army vet. One article from NBC has his former squad mates calling him klutzy and goofy, which I got to say, insane adjectives to use.
Yes.
When they served together in the, 420th Engineering Battalion. He was a mason and a carpenter in the Army, and he was deployed to Afghanistan, basically like a veteran, but not like some crazy PTSD or back to American Sniper, the guy who shot American Sniper style veteran.
Right.
But also American Sniper himself. So the guy says, maybe I have too many details here, but this is pretty much a forgotten shooting, even though it was a pretty major one.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest attacks specifically on police officers in our great nation's history. But sorry, Liz gave me a look after I said that, but you know what? I'm going to keep rocking through it. So big protest happens, right? It's sort of towards the end. We're getting towards the evening, the night. And a car pulls up. This is we're near a college downtown campus in Dallas. And a guy gets out, talks to a few different police officers, and then shoots them all. And over the next several hours gets in a running gun battle with the police through the college campus until basically he is cornered and is sort of stuck in, well, he's stuck, but he's also got the Dallas police officer stuck in down like a long hallway where he's firing from. So there's also a famous move during this fight that I should mention here because those of you who studied urban combat will no doubt have seen this, where Micah Johnson is sort of like engaged in a pretty close quarters shootout with a police officer around these pillars outside of a building in downtown Dallas.
Does he go behind the pillar?
Well, they're both behind pillars, sort of shooting at each other. He goes behind, shoots at the ground to distract the officer in one direction, and then goes behind the cop in the other direction. Bam, blows him away.
You telling me this is a video game move?
I'm telling you, you know what? I don't even know if video games possess the technology where you could do a move this advanced. It's a pretty crazy move. Anyways, he ends up shooting, I think it's like maybe 9 cops, killing 9 cops, I believe. But which is police do not like when one of them get killed, let alone 9 of them.
Yeah.
Pretty deadly day for the force. Wounds, of course, a bunch of other ones. At the end of this little chase to the college, he's sort of holed up at the end of this hallway, blasting back at officers. They're shooting at him. One of the big things is they say like, "Oh, we expended 200 rounds shooting at this guy."
What?
I don't know. That's not that many rounds.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because half the time people are shooting these things, they're kind of just popping off.
Yeah, they're just
not
going all
These aren't
yeah,
aimed shots.
Crazy
you know,
Well, it's
they're,
Dallas too. Crazy cowboy cops.
Exactly. Well, they do only have 6 shooters, which is why he very much outmatched him with his assault rifle. But police, report him as saying black power, all this stuff. There's a lot to get into for maybe a different episode about sort of the story around this. But they were sort of implying that he was a member of a black nationalist group, although it never actually came out that he was a member of any sort of organized group or anything like that. Anyways, 2 hours pass. The police are impatient. They're being taunted by Johnson, who is saying classic quips like, "How many of you guys did I kill?" Or, "I think I might kill some more of you guys." So they say. But there's absolutely no way that they're going to take this guy alive.
Yeah.
I mean,
no.
You shoot a cop, your chances of getting out of whatever situation you're in alive, it goes down by quite a bit. You shoot 9 cops, you're at 0%.
Yeah, totally.
So the police eventually send in a robot behind a wall near where Johnson is located. Now, this is a Remotech F5A bomb disposal robot sold by Northrop Grumman with a pound of C4 strapped to it. They detonate the bomb, and Johnson dies in the blast.
And the robot.
You know what? Actually, the robot does not die, which is something that should be mentioned. This EOD robots are famously very resistant to bombs. The robot was damaged, but I believe after, of course, recuperating from his wounds with his, wife and newborn child, was probably put back into active duty. But no, the robot actually survived the blast.
Fascinating.
But this was the first case of an unmanned vehicle killing a U.S. citizen in the United States. In fact, not even just an unmanned vehicle. I mean, listen, who among us hasn't put an apple down on the fucking gas pedal and had that fucking guy go down a hill and, streets of San Francisco?
And how many of us haven't died, have died in Tesla crashes?
True. Well, it's manned. You're just not really in control. But this is actually the first case of a robot being used to assassinate a human being that we know of in the United States. The justification from the police was that the police could possibly face injury or death, which I gotta say, yeah. I mean, that's kind of a big part of the job.
Well, that's how the police forces justify the use of these things. Is they say, okay, this is going to keep the safety of officers. Like, this will keep them more safe, and this will make the officers more comfortable in doing their job, or whatever. And we'll see that, as we kind of go through this, even more so when they kind of describe future uses for them. So, like, you could see a robot now stopping you, coming up to inspect your vehicle, and the cop is staying in the car, for example. Mm-hmm. But it's always, always, always justified by saying that, it's taking care of the officers.
Yeah, and even an even more broader justification for this, because I think even the police, as pig-headed as they can be sometimes, realize that that's not always the best justification for the general public to accept things like this, is that it saves lives. That's a huge reason that EOD robots are so popular, and that their use was so when they were first deployed in Northern Ireland, which we'll get to in a second, was justified to the general public. Is that like, well, these are saving lives. Well, they're
Right.
saving the officers' lives, maybe, or they're saving maybe they are, but the general thing is that like they're protecting civilians. That's how you're supposed to think of these things. And really, we see that justification the whole way down from like EOD robots to drones. But specifically, I do want to get into how did we get to the era basically where the SFPD, presumably using the example of the 2016 attack in Dallas, is basically trying to justify the use of what are essentially explosive killer robots.
Yes.